All right, we're back in TinkerCAD, and I have a clean work plane, as you can see, and I'll remind you, we're going to create an umbrella stand support. So here's my umbrella stand with my pole in it, and I'm going to build a support to go around here. And what I'll tell you is that this distance is about 2 inches, so I know I need to make that about 2 inches. So I'm going to jump back over to my umbrella stand support. And if I wanted to make a support, now we're going to start taking a look at some of the other tools here. What you'll notice is that if I click on basic shapes, and that's where I'm going to start with, but I could bring out text or symbols or different types of connectors. So there are all types of pieces that you'll want to experiment with. And I'm going to bring out a cylinder, and I'm going to want this cylinder, this is going to be the base, and so I'm going to want it to be, about 2.5 inches. And now I'm going to twist this, and what you'll notice is this part is going to, I just want like a thin cylinder, maybe we'll say 3/8 of an inch is probably good for that. And so I have this little disc here, and so I've created one part. Now, eventually I'm going to need to put a hole in that, but I'm not going to do that just yet. And the reason I need a hole is because I'm going to want this collar or this piece to slip over here, and the pole has to be able to go through. So now I'm going to bring out another cylinder, and this cylinder I'm going to want to make a little bit bigger. I want to keep my dimensions the same, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on top of the other one. So let's see, this one, if we remember, is 3/8 of an inch high. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to raise it up 3/8 of an inch and move it over top of it. So now I'm moving this off. So it looks like I probably need this to be a little bit bigger than 2.5 inches because I made that be bigger. So let's go, we'll make it 3 inches, and I'm going to move this back on top. So now what you see is I have two separate pieces. Now what I really want to do is I want to align those two so that they're centered together, and then I want to make them into one complete object. So I'm going to start here by selecting this object and this object. So I've hold down the shift key, and you can see I have them both captured. And now I'm going to hit the align button. And so for the align button, it gives you some interesting choices here. I could align them in any of the three ways. So what I want to do is I want to align their centers that way and this way. And now they're one over top of the other, as you can see. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to group these objects together. And so it'll treat them as one object. So I've now grouped them, okay? And even though I've done that, I can go back and I could still maybe stretch this out a little bit, but notice now because I've grouped them, it's stretching both of them out. So if I wanted to go back and I wanted to make it a little bit taller, I'd have to ungroup them. So I could, again, click here, ungroup, and I could regroup. And you can continue to do that. So if I say, okay, ungroup, let's make this a little taller. And now I'm going to regroup, so I have to shift click, bring them back together, and they're now grouped together. And then finally, what I want to do is I need to carve out a piece of the middle. So I'm going to pull a cylinder out. Now, what I'll show you is that that cylinder is actually a hole. So you can see like the difference is this is a solid cylinder, whereas this is a hole. And then if we scroll down, you can see there are all different types of things. You can turn any shape into a hole by simply changing it here. So if I delete this for a moment and I bring out a different cylinder, I can say, okay, I want that to be a hole, and you can see it changed it over to a hole. So I can make anything into a hole. Now, how am I going to work with this? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this tall, really tall for my object, and then I'm going to put it over top of it. And what you can see is, oh, that probably will create a hole in the middle. Now, I probably need this a little wider. I'm going to make it, we'll say about like that. Let's try that one more time. Okay, So now what I have, if I turn this, is I have a hole that goes all the way through. And if I wasn't actually sure, remember that I can use this to move this down through. And if I turn it, you can see that it actually does go through. Now, if I really want the hole to be there, I just have to group the objects together. But I'm going to expand this just a little bit more. And then remember, I want to get it centered on there. So how do we center? Well, I multiple select. So I already have one. I'm going to select my hole, and then I'm going to shift and select my object. And now I want to go up there and I want to align them. And again, I can just click on the middle tool this way and the middle tool that way. And now, as we take a look, what I have is it's all aligned right down the middle. And now all I need to do is group the two objects. So again, I make sure I have them both selected. And if I group them, the whole part takes out all of the solid area, and now I'm ready to go. And so what I would encourage you to do is to explore the different shapes that you have that you can pull out. So if you wanted to pull out text, and you can change that, and we could say we want to spell out, if we do that correctly, NASA, and I want to shrink that down, and then I would have this. And so all of this material will become part of my design that I'm creating. When you are done, you're going to want to download for 3D printing. And what you'll do is you'll click on the export button. And when I do that, I want everything that's in the design, and I'm going to set it as an STL file because that's the type of file that you'll want to use when you are printing on your 3D printers. So I'll click on the STL file. You can see it came up and said it was preparing it, and then it downloads that file. And I now have that file as an STL file on my desktop or wherever you download your files, and you're ready to go.